and also 10 other Ogoni people were wanted in connection with the killing. The 10 others who were wanted were not violent youths. Now, they were the doctors, the lawyers, the journalists, the university professors that we had in Ogoni. I was not surprised when my name was the first on the list of those wanted in connection with the death, with the murder of 4 of our chiefs. The murder of 4 of our chiefs is a shame, I must say. Our chiefs were having meeting there were about 82 people having meeting in a village. In that village, there were army people at the meeting in uniform and in plain clothes. Yet, 4 people were killed. There was no injury on any other person, on any side, if there was a divide. The army claims they don't know who killed them initially. Those that they arrested were nowhere near that site. They did not have anything to do with that meeting in the first place. We are of the opinion that the army knows those who killed our chiefs. We are of the opinion that agent provocateurs were used to kill our chiefs in order to frame up the Mossop leadership. Nobody in Mossop or the 9 our friends who were killed had ever had any criminal record or shown any sign of violence on their part. My brother, people have gotten to know very well. A writer, he's written 27 books, books for children, for high school students, for university students. A father, he has never, I lived with him for 20 years. He has never, ever used his hands against me. Dr. Kilbell, a university lecturer, he has never in his life been to court for any criminal offense. By the name, Mr. Kwine used to work in university also as a lab technologist. He has never been to court for any criminal offense. The others were mostly teachers, teaching primary school students. They have never been involved in any criminal offense or any violent offense in their life. That goes to the Ogoni 19 who are still in detention. However, I immediately went on the ground when I saw my name within Lagos. And being on the ground, I continued to write to my brother, and an underground network was built where we could get letters to him in cell and out. And we were able to monitor what was happening to him in prison, the chaining to the wall, the torture that they did to him, the refusal for him to have any medical attention, even when he was so sick and actually had a mild heart attack once. NGOs all over the world have sent messages to the Nigerian military and Shell for him to have, him to be allowed a doctor. The military would not. The Goldman Environmental Foundation gave an award to my brother and also announced the award before the time to put pressure so that they would give him medical attention. That did not come. I and the other of my colleagues were visiting NGOs in Lagos, in Nigeria, the church people, other Nigerian chiefs. We also visited a lot of diplomats in Nigeria, diplomatic mission, to see that they put enough pressure so that at least they will get free medical attention and also for them to regain their freedom. We told the truth. And we wanted the truth to free our brothers in detention. Most of the people I talked to pointed in one direction. Go and talk to Shell. I went first to the Irish diplomats and asked them to try and set a mission. To try and let me see Shell, to talk to Shell. Why the Irish? We have noticed in Ogoni the presence of the Daughters of Charity, a church group who have been helping quite a lot to take care of Ogoni refugees and the people who have been shot. I used that connection, and they tried to get a meeting with the head of Shell in Nigeria. They could not. I also tried the Swedish, the Canadian embassy. They all tried. I went to the Dutch embassy. I could not. But later, I went to the British High Commission. With the help of the British High Commissioner, a meeting was arranged with the head of Shell at my request. In arranging this meeting, I was made to know that Shell do not want to say anything about reparation or about the human rights abuse going on in Ogoni.
The Ogoni Solidarity Network is pleased to present Dr. Owens Wiwa at the Vancouver Planetarium, October 27, 1996. His talk has been edited to serve the cause of activism and to fit the 1-hour time constraint. For more information or to help the Boycott Shell rallies, contact the Ogoni Solidarity Network at the Sierra Club Lower Mainland Group. Telephone 873-8554. Fax 872-0709. Email ogoni@vcn.bc.ca or check out the webpage at sierraclub.org/Sarah-Wiwa.
In the first meeting, where I met the head of Shell in Nigeria, Mr. Brian Anderson, in a cocktail party on the Queen's birthday, I asked him, my brother was very sick, along others, I asked him to use his influence to see that my brother gets medical attention, as has been requested by several people, and he said that he would try to see what he can do. I was happy. I sent my wife, who was with me, to go and make the same request of him, and my wife went in the presence of his own wife and made the same requests. He said he would try and see what he can do. 5 days after that, my brother was taken to the hospital for the first time. I was happy. I thought that at last we have got somewhere where we could get some help. I wrote to my brother about what I've been doing, and he wrote back to me, giving me a letter that I should show to Mr. Brian Anderson, the head of Shell Nigeria. I took the letter to Mr. Brian Anderson and gave it to him. He read it and said, I don't trust Ken. I asked him, how come you say you don't trust a man you have never met? What has Ken done or said that makes you not to trust him? Is there anything? He hadn't answered to that. I told him the reason why I came. In this second meeting, I had gone to the house of the lawyer whom they had insisted should be with us during the talk. I won't mention his name here because he's still in Nigeria. But in his house, he asked me to phone Mr. Brian Anderson to ask if his presence was still required at the meeting. And I phoned the head of Shell, and he said no, that I should come alone. At the meeting after the letter, I asked him to try to use his influence to save my brother's life and the life of others so that negotiation can start with Shell, as we've always been requesting. Why did I go to Shell, apart from the fact that many people had told me to go to Shell? There are many reasons. In the tribunal itself, we had noticed that a lawyer has stood up to say that he is watching brief for Shell. We don't know why there should be a Shell lawyer in court in a criminal case. However, the defense lawyers, Ken's defense and others, raised objection to his presence. 6 days after the first day, he stood up to say that he was no longer watching brief for Shell, but he was watching brief for the River State Bar Association. But he had his junior partner in court throughout. This particular lawyer was a very close friend of the tribunal chairman. They attended the same university and were classmates in the law school. He was also as Attorney General of the Rivers State, he had dismissed a judicial commission of inquiry that had been put in place after Shell called in the mobile police who went to a village called Umuechem in 1989 to stop a peaceful demonstration. During this process, 80 people were killed, 495 houses were destroyed. The Judicial Commission said that the troops and the company that did this should be prosecuted. As Attorney General, he dismissed the report of the Judicial Commission. Then when he left that job, he became a Shell lawyer. So he was in trial. He was in the trial. We were very worried. Apart from that, he was always seen in company of the military tribunal chairman after the court cases. So we asked the managing director of Shell to stop the trial. If they had anything against my brother and others, there should be a fair trial in a normal court and not in a military-appointed court. He said that would be impossible. Well, difficult, but not impossible. But the Ogoni people should show goodwill. I asked him what he meant by goodwill, and he said that I should write a press release on Mossop letterhead saying that there is no environmental devastation in Ogoni land. He also requested that we should call off the international protests that had been going on to save my brother and our colleagues. I was a little bit upset, and I told him right there that I can't do it. How can he expect me to say that what we have been saying since 1990 is a lie? I don't have the power to call off protests or to write that press release. However, I checked myself and told him that I would send his message to Ken and others in detention, and I did that. Ken wrote back to him and told him that if he's free, the writers' lobby and the human rights lobby will not be having any campaign. It will only remain the environmental lobby. When the environmental lobby see that he's out and talking with Shell, and Shell is doing the right thing, doing the environmental impact assessment, using better methods in their drilling without polluting the place, and when they stop supporting the military dictatorship, then there will be no protest. On the other hand, if they allow the tribunal to go on, the tribunal will sentence him to death and will kill him. And when he dies, he'll be a martyr to the Ogoni people and for environmentalists. He prayed in his letter that Shell should do the right thing, talk to the people, and not to continue to deal with military buffoons. Those were his words. After Mr. Brian Anderson read the letter, he told me that he would not be able to have further discussions with me, and I should continue discussion with Mr. Anyameka Achebe, the second highest ranking Nigerian in Shell, and he will no longer be available. I rang up the person he referred me to, and I was told he's gone to Germany. He will be back after 7 days. After 7 days, I rang his office. They told me he's gone to Abuja, the capital city of Nigeria. He will be back after 5 days. After 5 days, I phoned. I was told he's gone to Port Harcourt, the oil city in Nigeria. So I went back to ring Mr. Brent Anderson. The first time I rang, they told me he had gone to dinner. Then I rang again in his office. They said he was having lunch. So I said I will ring after an hour. After an hour, I rang. They said he's no longer available. I rang again in his house. They said he's gone somewhere. Well, I continued. They did not reply. They didn't answer my calls. So I wrote back to my brother, and he wrote and said, don't bother. They have made their decision. November 10, my brother was hanged in a most brutal manner. He tried to hang my brother 5 times. He was the first person to go. their contraction would not